Hello.
Hi, Maggie. I don't know if you're watching it or just hanging out, Maggie, but, oh, that's not you. Actually, that's us, right? Forget it. Anyways, let me just get a second to open this up. At least I got a nice walk across. I did. Thank you. Recordings in progress. Welcome, everybody. I decided to just do it on my computer. I'm here in the classroom, 15, but no one else is. And so instead of talking to an empty room, I just got my laptop out. So we're gonna do it this way, which is why it was weird with the double screen. So anyways, welcome everybody. It looks like it's about 1:01. How is everyone today? Stressed? No. I was joking because I ran into my dean on the way over here and I was like, I'm rushing. Oh, perfect. There's someone in the classroom. So I can do it. Are you able to get on your end? Is it gonna throw it off if I? Yeah, and I'll pop back over there. All right, give us 1 second. Sorry, I should have just went with my original plan. All right, give me a second, everyone.
No problem. Elmore Rangers.
Yeah. All right, so can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna change this lovely view of me. Just give me a second.
Also muted over there.
Oh,
In case they're right down. Yeah. And it looks like
can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so give me a second. I need to get my stuff up now because I just switched screens and I want to get back up. Google Drive. Anyways, how's everybody today?
Good.
I was on my computer what am I doing here? My computer a second ago, but then I decided it might work better if I'm actually here. So we're going to talk in a moment. Basically, I don't want to say about stress because we're probably sick of hearing that, right? Are we sick of that? I'm sick of it. Can we take stress away?
Sure.
Just sign in.
In general or from the title?
Don't worry about the title. Do you think you can? Check your phone. Why isn't it coming to my watch? All right, hold on. Do you think that we can get rid of, I mean, we have stress in our life, right? So we can manage it. We can't really get rid of it. Sorry, I need to do this lovely sign-in thing here that didn't even come to my, are you kidding me? How do you resend it? Try another way. Oh, it went to my email, that's why. So basically what I'm trying to say is that what we're going to talk about is not how to eliminate stress because stress is just a part of life, but how to deal with stress. And I can't get on this. Resend. Try another way. Let's try this. Oh, got it. This whole double authentication only works when you're in a room that actually allows it. 1, 6. I'm coming. Jeez. I remember this when I teach in the fall. Okay, so we cannot get rid of stress, but we sure the heck can learn to deal with it. So one thing I'm actually doing right now is I'm taking a 9-month, it's like a 9-month training, and it's all about it's basically the scientific study of human thriving, to put it in perspective. It's an amazing class. So I'm going to share some of that cool stuff with you. But basically, can you guys see the screen? What's that?
I think you have to share your screen.
Oh, because I'm on Zoom, right? Oh, yeah. Hold on. Yay, now everyone can see it, finally. Okay. Let's get rid of you guys. Slideshow. Okay. Whew, we made it. All right, so welcome everybody. I apologize for the delay. I was going to just do it on my computer, but then it made more sense to do it here. It just is a weird view of me, but hopefully you're not getting too much of me. But basically, we're going to talk about how to deal with stress. Like, we focus so much on eliminating stress, right? But can we really eliminate stress? Probably not. We would like to think we can, but there's some stressors in life that just exist. I want to put you guys up so I can see you. There we go. Okay. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, and this, I guess I just can't watch you guys. I'm just going to talk to Kate, right? You said?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to talk basically about the difference between health and wellness. And that's a really big thing. And I know there was a whole presentation on Monday with student success, but what about us, right? Like, hello, if you don't have us healthy, then how are we going to be able to help our students, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between health and well-being, and mainly, well, I'll get to that in a second, what the real big difference is. We're also going to define resilience, talk about resilience. So again, we can't eliminate stress, but how do we become resilient individuals so that when something negative happens, we can bounce back? Okay, so that's a really big part of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk a little bit about positive psychology and goal setting. And this is where this 9-month training of mine comes into play. And when I say it's a 9-month training, I just started it last week. It's 4 hours of course classwork a week for 9 months, excuse me, 36 weeks or something like that. And it's all about the scientific study of human flourishing, which is essentially positive psychology. However, positive psychology tends to get a little bit of a bad rap because you think you just go around being happy, but that's definitely not the case. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about goal setting, how you can set specific goals and habits that you do every day to make yourself more resilient. And then I will share this PowerPoint. I believe we'll have the names of everybody that attended, right? I'll send out the PowerPoint because I have links in here that are actually strategies that you can use on your own. We probably just won't have a chance to get through them today. So you may or may not have seen this, but our department is, and actually I don't even think I introduced myself. Sorry about that. I'm Amy Bidwell and I'm the chair of Department of Health Promotion and Wellness. So we live and die by this particular circle. And what this is essentially the 8 dimensions of wellness. We so often, well, let me pose this question to you guys. Whoops, let me open you guys up here. What does it mean when you think of wellness? Like, what does it mean to be well? What is it?
Balance between mind, body, and soul.
I love that, mind, body, and soul. I have to unpin myself. I can't stand looking at this view that you guys have of me. Wow, hide self view. Okay, thank you, Jen. Mind, body, and soul. I really, really like that one. Anything else? Anybody else have something they want to add to that?
I'd say have mental, physical, and emotional health.
Mental, physical, and emotional health. And that's something that we typically thrive for and strive for. However, let's think of the other dimensions. So let's say you just lost your job. And I'm assuming that's nobody here, but let's just say that, you know, you lost your job and you can't pay your bills next week or next month. That is affecting your financial well-being, obviously. However, it's going to impact all those other well-being dimensions. Okay. And so what we want to do is we really want to look at how one thing affects the other. I'm going to play this really short video. It's only about 2 minutes long. Some of you may have seen this before. Can you guys hear that okay?
The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, created the Wellness Initiative to help people with mental and/or substance use disorders, and all people, Live longer, healthier lives by focusing on the 8 dimensions of wellness that connect all aspects of behavioral health. Improving wellness by taking action on each of these dimensions addresses early mortality from treatable and preventable conditions. Embracing wellness is about life and living and becoming the healthiest you possible. Listen to your feelings, express them to people you trust, and maintain a positive outlook. Make it a point to understand your finances, establish good financial habits, and plan for the future. A sense of belonging and a reliable support system help during difficult times. Make at least one social connection daily. Seek advice from peers or support groups. And create healthy friendships. Enhancing your connection to self, nature, and others brings balance and peace to your life. Take time to discover what values and beliefs are most important to you. Look for satisfaction from things you're passionate about, whether it is through work, school, or volunteering. Reduce your risk of many illnesses by increasing activity levels according to your abilities, getting restful sleep at night, choosing healthy foods, and exploring outdoors to reduce stress and increase energy levels. Be a lifelong learner by expanding your knowledge and finding creative outlets that stimulate your mind and sense of curiosity. Be open to new ideas, insights, and wisdom. A positive environment has a calming effect. Find surroundings that encourage good physical and mental health, and where you also feel safe. At SAMHSA, we envision a future in which people with mental and/or substance use disorders, and all people, pursue optimal health, happiness, recovery, and a full and satisfying life in the community. Wellness is an ongoing pursuit and can be challenging at times, but striving to make small daily improvements is the key to success. For more information and resources about wellness,
So one of the really big takeaways of what we just saw was finding habits to help your daily well-being. And that's really what we're going to talk about, is what these kind of habits look like. Okay. But it's really important to understand that if you aren't optimal, or at least thriving in all of those dimensions, something's going to happen. And a great example is, let me again move you guys out of the way so I can see here. I love this clown. So what we have here is a clown that's balancing all 8 balls, but then all of a sudden one of them drops. When you're juggling 8 balls and you drop one, what's going to happen to the other ones? Most likely they're going to fall, right? And so that's why it's really important to make sure that you don't focus so much on one dimension. So I'll use myself as an example. A year or so ago, as winter 2020 into 2021, our winter break, I was running a lot. I was actually training for a marathon, and went through a period while I was running where I kept falling down while I was running, falling into the street, falling in my kitchen, just falling all the time. And I couldn't figure out why. So a very long story short, what I discovered was, or I should say what the doctors discovered, is I have multiple sclerosis, which I knew. That's not what they discovered. I knew that, but I haven't had anything in 12 years at this point, nothing, to a point where I was 100% convinced I didn't have it anymore. Well, due to the stress of 2020 and the stress of running, apparently, I had my first severe flare up to a point where I was actually bedbound basically all of winter break that winter. And so what happened is my physical ball fell. And then they all started tumbling after that. So emotional wellness was next. I went into a deep state of depression over that winter break. I was socially isolated as was the whole entire rest of the world because of COVID. It wasn't working in a sense where we weren't on campus. And so all these different, and obviously my physical wellness was gone. So because I didn't have very strong parts of my other dimensions. Once that one ball fell, I didn't know how to deal with that, right? So what we need to do is we need to learn, okay, we know these balls are gonna fall, but how can we either pick it up quickly and start juggling again? Or how do we really emphasize those other dimensions that we might have a little bit more control over? Okay, so that's why it's really important to understand what it really means to be well versus healthy. People would look at me and say they might think I'm healthy. You know, my weight, well, actually my weight's elevated, but that's a whole nother story. Cholesterol is good, blood pressure, all that stuff is good. So if I walk out of the doctor, I'm healthy, but am I well? I wouldn't consider myself, well, most days of the week, I'd say I'm well, but just because you have a good checkup at the doctor that says, okay, you're good, you're not going to get heart disease or something, doesn't mean you're well. And I think we've all realized that over the course of the last, 24 to 26 months, that there's more to our well-being than just physical well-being. And so what you want to do is try to manage these balls, manage all 8 of the balls. And when one drops, understand what you can do to bounce back. So this is not surprising. We're stressed, right? I'm not going to say that we can take away stress, because we can't. There might be things in our life that we can remove. If you're in a stressful relationship or something like that, maybe you can remove that, but stress is part of life. Okay. We may have another pandemic. We're still in a pandemic. We're dealing with it every day. I'm right now talking to 2 people in the room. And so I'm like, trying to get my vibe back. This is my first time actually teaching face-to-face, where most everybody was virtually, whereas it's usually the other way around. So stress is there. How do we deal with that stress? Well, this is it. Well, in a summary, this is really what we're looking at. What we're looking at is you want to become well enough. You want to be healthy enough and well enough so that you are north of neutral. And what I mean by north of neutral, and there's a great book called Authentic Happiness, which really talks about this north of neutral with Martin Seligman. He's kind of the founding father of positive psychology. But what this is saying is, if you are unhealthy, let's say that you're not healthy in terms of emotional wellness, you might be seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor. What they predominantly try to do is treat what's happening, what's wrong, so that you are essentially at neutral. Okay, so they're taking that -3 or -4 that you're dealing with and trying to get you to 0 so that you can function, right? But what you want to do to become resilient is to be north of that neutral. You don't want to be just okay. You want to be well, so that when you do have some sort of stressor, you might go from a 3 to a 1, but not a 0 to a -3, because your health ramifications are a lot worse when you're at a -3 than they are at a neutral. Okay, so this whole concept of north of neutral really encompasses what it means to flourish and thrive, to be able to have the tools in your toolbox, your resilience toolbox, to be north of neutral, so that when those stressors hit, because they're going to hit, it might just bump you down a little bit to a point where you're at neutral, but you still are able to deal with the stressor. Okay, and so that's what the tools I'm going to try to give you today will work a little bit on that. So with that being said, with this kind of north of neutral and keeping us at this +3, I want to pose this question. How much attention does the individual pay? So how much attention do you pay to positive events and negative events? So I'm going to open that up for everybody, and you can pop it in the chat if you want, or ideally open up your microphone. But would you say that you pay attention more to positive events or negative events?
Positive.
Would you say?
I said positive.
Positive. We've got a positive for face-to-face here.
I'd say our brains are kind of trained to pay more attention to negative events. like for survival, and I feel like I've heard like it's like 7 or 8 times more likely to, I don't know, like you need like 7 positives to outweigh like 1 negative or something like that.
I mean, if you could do 7 to 1, that would be amazing. Ideally, we kind of shoot for 3 to 1, but 7 to 1, I hear you. But what else? Who else has something to say? I saw Kristen had put in the chat. Anybody else?
I tend to dwell in the negative.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Excited about the positive, but then I dwell in the negative.
Right? Definitely. So I'm just thinking, and this will be me like next week or the week after, it's time to look at the course evaluations. Right? I mean, this is a classic. You have your wine in your hand because you learn that after your first year to always look at your course evaluations with some sort of alcoholic beverage in your hand. So you're looking at them and it's like 25 amazing comments. And then there's that one student that you know right away, you know who it is, right? It's the student that failed, that has nothing but negative things to say. And you perseverate on that for days, right? Yet you had a 25 to 1 ratio of good to bad comments, but you're focusing on that bad comment. Or, and this happened to me today, I had, we all have zillions of emails. And why, and I don't know if maybe I'm the only one that does this. It's like I scan the emails, just, kind of prioritize it in my brain. But for some reason, I always look for the one that I know is going to be some sort of negative connotation to it. It's like, rip the Band-Aid off. Let me just get this over with. Like, why do we do that? Why do we immediately go to the negative? When was the last time you went to a restaurant and had an amazing meal and commented to somebody about it? Like on, Instagram or something. I don't use social media, but I will tell you that if you had a bad meal, I bet you would be on social media commenting on how bad it was, right? So we only focus on the negative for whatever reason. Does anyone want to take a stab at why we do that? And I don't have an answer, so that's actually an honest question. Like, why do we focus on the negative? Let's see what we have in the chat here.
I think the negative is something unexpected. So we focus on it because it's like, well, why did it happen?
Right. You're trying to explain it and understand it. Yes, I agree with that for sure. And I wanted to just highlight, whoops, we went the wrong way. Kristen Hayes here. I agree. It's like, how many punches can you take, right? We're 2+ years into the pandemic and it just keeps coming. And, if we stopped watching the news as of yesterday for the obvious reasons. But it's like, you can't watch the news in itself is enough to drain you, right? And so I eliminated all social media over a year ago, which I think is amazing. I love it. Now I just need to eliminate
I got
national
Facebook
TV
too.
Yes.
Best thing I ever did.
And even something is like as far as Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And this is why I got off of it. You might get on social media and you see a picture of your best friend that just bought a brand new house and they're, telling you about it. And it should be a good thing, right? Like, oh my God, look at that beautiful house. Or your brain goes to, what the heck is this person doing to be able to afford a house like that? Like, how come I can't have that house? Or what hit me one time was a good friend of mine who all through grad school was trying to get pregnant. She couldn't get pregnant. She's still, well, she's older now, but couldn't get pregnant. And it dawned on me one day when she and I were having a conversation that she really feels bad. She went off of social media because people would go on Facebook or whatever and put pictures of their kids, innocent pictures of their kids. And it made her feel bad, which is obvious. That happened to me shortly after my dog died a few years ago. Just innocently scrolling on Facebook at the doctor's office and someone posted a cute little picture of their dog. Should be a happy moment, bam, it becomes a negative moment. And so I do think that we're constantly bombarded with the negative. So that's where it becomes important to stay north of neutral. And Kristen said, focusing on negative helps us avoid risks. Yeah, so it's like that fight or flight, right? From an evolutionary perspective, we as hunter and gatherers were created to fight, right? Fight for our food, fight for our shelter, everything. And so we have that fight or flight response. But I will tell you, and I will tell you because I'm my own personal subject in this, plus I've worked with other individuals on this. I've seen it in my classroom, my first year students. If you can learn to stay north of neutral, it will significantly alter your life in a positive way. Trust me. Okay. So our negativity bias, we kind of talked about this already. But again, it's those people that are focusing on the negative events. This is difficult also in a working environment. You know, you walk into the office, you may automatically be thinking right now of that person, right? You walk into the office and you just know they're negative. For whatever reason, they're just negative Nellies. My mom, I love her dearly, but she's very negative. I don't know, like, she's that person that will have the most amazing meal, but then have one negative thing and like go off on it. And so she's unintentionally can bring me down to a point where now when I call her, 'cause, you know, being a good daughter, I have to call her every day. And if I don't call around 4, it's like a whole thing. Anyways, like I said, so you have to kind of prepare yourself, bring yourself up a little higher so that when you do get knocked down, you're not too far down. Okay, so again, really focusing on avoiding the negativity, removing stuff from your life. Like I said, social media, you had said how much it helped you. How did it help you get rid of social or Facebook?
How, I don't know, it just felt better not falling into the business model and him getting rich off of our weakest, you know, our vulnerability. So I got sick of having my vulnerability taken advantage of and watching all these other people. Yeah. So
That's actually an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
That now that you say that.
I didn't want any part of it anymore. And it wasn't really, you know, it was all just junk. Like I was getting all just
Ads and such, right? Yeah.
It wasn't even good. I don't know.
And it's interesting too, because another part of, like, say, social media is, do you really think that those individuals that are posting these perfect pictures, and this is really what got me, do you really think that that's their life? Like, what
You're
they're
comparing
creating
your
this
inside
image.
to their outside. So what this
Exactly.
False thing that they're creating.
Exactly.
So.
And then it brings you down. It's this false sense that the whole world is perfect except you, right? And that's not what we want. So we want to avoid that negative bias, okay? So this kind of just goes again towards this, you know, what is this negativity bias? And a lot of times it's when you perseverate on things. And this is where the resiliency tools are going to come into play, is that when the stress and the negativity comes into play, how do you deal with it and you don't dwell on it? Okay. So what we're going to learn in a second is how to recognize that negativity and then respond in a different way instead of dwelling on it. Okay, so this is what I was referring to, and I will tell you this actually works. It seems so simple, but it has really altered my relationship with my family, with my friends, but it's how you handle a response or some sort of stressor. So again, it could be something as simple as, and actually a friend of mine noticed this when she was driving with me, something as simple as that individual that cut you off. You know, that person that cuts in front of you, you're rushing to work, and for whatever reason, they just cut you off. Your first response, again, fight or flight, you're going to fight, you're going to be negative, right? So the stress response will teach you how to just stop for a second. And the stop is going to play a role here. Okay. So what happens with a stress response is typically you have a stressor. So that stressor, again, being that bad course evaluation or a bad evaluation from your, you know, superior, or someone cut you off, whatever it is, you have that stressor, you immediately respond in some sort of negative way. And then it snowballs from there, right? How many times have you received that email that just really bothers you? very negative, and you immediately respond. And as soon as you hit send, you're like, wait a minute, I probably shouldn't have done that. And now it just snowballs into this whole other issue. What you want to do is become aware of what you're doing. And it takes practice, just like going to the gym and, you know, getting stronger arms. You have to do a lot of arm exercises in order to be able to carry the groceries up the stairs when you're, you know, in your house. Okay. You have to practice this stress response. And what it is it's stopping and looking at the situation, taking a breath and then responding. And what we call this is actually stop. Okay. So I received this email and my first response, or let's make it even more realistic, you are just cut off by somebody in the car. Your first response, lay on your horn or road rage or whatever. And it's just making the situation more negative. Now you walk into work and you're negative, so it snowballs from there. Your new response is to stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed. This may seem just really ridiculous, but it actually works, and it's so simple. And it doesn't take even as long as it took me to just say it, right? What it is the more you train your body to be mindful of your current situation or where you are in space, you know, or in time, if you can train your body to be more mindful of where you are, then you can quickly observe and then respond. Okay, so what this would look like is, again, someone cuts me off, and again, somebody that was driving with me noticed this. This person just practically hit us, and the person in the car with me was adamantly like frustrated. And then afterwards, she's like, Amy, you didn't even respond. Like, aren't you mad? And it was because the stop just automatically happens. So you practically get hit by somebody and your immediate reaction is to yell. But if you actually just stop and take a breath, observe the feeling, and then proceed, it makes a huge difference. So what I want you to do is, we're going to take about a minute to do this. I want you to think of something. You're going to do this with yourself. You don't have to participate. I want you to just close your eyes, and I want you to think of that negative event or that negative thing, whatever it is, somebody that's really bothering you, or an email that you know you need to respond to. I want you to think about that negative feeling. Don't go too deep. I don't want you to grab something so deep that I can't deal with it, but think of that negative event. And the thing that happens that makes us more stressed with that negative event is we try to push it away. Instead of pushing it away, I want you to feel it. I want you to observe it and, in fact, actually name it. So feel that negative emotion, whatever it is. Take a breath. Allow it to be. Don't push it away. And then the last part is proceed. And that proceed might be right now thinking of how you could deal with it in a more objective way. Or it might be just the fact that you allowed yourself to feel it is proceeding. So this is basically an opportunity or a space to be mindful. But if I said, let's be mindful for a second, everyone probably thinks I'm crazy, right? I do this with my students all the time. Instead of saying, you know, let's meditate or be mindful, I talk to them about this, which is just sit and think of a negative emotion, which it seems counterintuitive, but what we're doing is we're training the brain. Just like if you want to be able to bring your groceries up the stairs, you need to make sure that you're physically fit enough to do that, so you may exercise regularly. We have to train the brain just as much. We're rewiring those neural pathways. This is where the growth mindset comes into play. Okay, we need to rewire the brain. And what happens when we're faced with a stressful situation is that we immediately respond, usually negatively, and we don't allow ourselves to feel it. And if you don't allow yourself to feel it, all you're doing is pushing it in deeper and deeper. And eventually it's going to explode. I'll never forget this. On an Easter a few years ago, my sister and I were having issues and I kept my mouth shut, and this was like over a year, and then I actually exploded at the restaurant. They actually kicked us out, all 12 of us, because it was like a mad, like something from the TV. It was hysterical, but I just held it in and held it in. So when you're faced with something negative, allow yourself to feel it. When you get that negative email, just sit and feel it. Feel that anxiety or that negativity that that person or that email just provoked in you. And then take a breath, observe it, and respond. And one thing I will tell you about negative people is, or when people do things to you, very rarely is it done intentionally. So let's take the example of someone cutting you off in traffic. Are they intentionally coming through and they're gonna say, you know what, see that Allison in front of me? I'm gonna cut her off. Bam. That probably doesn't happen that way. I went to a happiness retreat last year for 4 days. It was amazing. In the middle of the mountains in North Carolina by myself. The best part of it was driving down and hitting every TJ Maxx without my husband telling me I couldn't. But in there, they talked about things that make you angry. And I used such a simple example of, and my husband's absolutely amazing, but he's the biggest slob, right? Like he's perfect. Everything's perfect, except he's a slob. And he leaves his clothes on the floor 3 feet from the laundry basket. And I get frustrated, like, why can't you just put them 3 feet further, right? And so I use this as an example in the retreat. And the person teaching it, they were like, do you think that your husband stands there and says, I'm going to intentionally piss off my wife today and throw the clothes on the floor? Probably not. It's probably because he lived with his parents till he was 30 and his mom made his bed until the day he got married. So there's probably reasons behind people's negative intentions. It may not be what you agree with, but if you actually stop, feel it, allow it to be, process it, and then proceed, it will make a difference. And I have altered students' relationships with their roommates using the stop method. It really does work. So again, really all we're doing is being mindful. When I said to stop and think about that negative emotion, it brings up feelings, right? It brings up emotions. That's normal. And you need to actually process this. And this is where why people have heart attacks. And actually, and I don't know if this is still the case, but Monday mornings used to be the highest rate of heart attacks. I don't know if that's still the case, but you're processing everything that you have to do for the week and it exuberates all the stress internally. You have to get that stress out. You have to be mindful of everything that you're doing each day. So let me just close this. So I love this quote, between stimulus and response, there's a space. It is that space that you have the power to choose what to do. In your response lies your growth and your freedom. This is where you're going to thrive or die, basically. Okay. So if we think of languishing versus flourishing, we want you to flourish. You're going to languish if you're perseverating on the negative and you don't allow yourself that space to actually proceed or that space to observe and be mindful. If you're mindful when you're driving, you're not going to be bothered by that individual that's going 20 miles an hour down 48 when you're rushing to campus, right? You have to be mindful of your daily actions. So that brings us to resilience. Questions so far? Nothing? Okay. So resilience, again, I've pretty much already explained resilience, but resilience is the official definition. It's the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress that essentially affect your overall well-being. Okay. We want to flourish. We don't want to languish. We don't necessarily want to be healthy. We want to be healthy, but we need to be well. And if I had to take a poll on this campus of how many individuals are healthy versus how many are well, it's going to be completely different. Okay. It's the resilience that we're missing. And like somebody said in the chat, it's like, how many punches can one take? And it is tough. And I completely agree with that. So I like this kind of 6 domains of resilience, mainly because it really looks at, in a different way, the 8 dimensions of well-being, but how we can enhance our resilience by utilizing these tools. Number 1, so the 6 domains of resilience, what we're really looking at is how do we handle challenges? So if we look at challenges, resilient people are already north of neutral. They're 3, 4, 5, 6. And when stressors happen, they might get bounced down to a 2 or a 1, maybe neutral, but never a negative, because they have those tools. Okay. Commitment, they're committed to the importance of being resilient, the importance of their mini habits every day, things that they do every day that will help change their mindset. And they're in control of their world, right? And so in order for this to happen, a lot of things have to happen. For one, you have to have a vision. What is your purpose in life? Okay, and I have a link of an activity that you can do on your own to help with this, but what is your vision? If you don't have a vision, imagine getting up out of bed every day and you don't have a purpose. And I know I struggled with this during COVID, like when we were all in shutdown, because it's like, you didn't really need to set your alarm. And I think I went a couple weeks without it. And then I started getting up at the same time I would normally get up. Okay. You have to have a purpose. And I think for students, this is difficult because they can't always see that far in advance yet. All they can see is 4 years of college in front of them. Okay. So you have to set yourself daily goals. When you get up in the morning, and I do this every day and it's automatic now, I journal in my head. I just, for some reason, I can't get into like journaling, but I journal in my head. And as soon as my alarm goes off, I immediately think, what do I need to do today? How am I going to get there? Okay. It can't just be, what do I have to do today? You have to have the how am I going to get there part, because that will help decrease your stress. That'll increase your resilience. And that how am I going to get there? I will tell you an amazing book that you have to read. Everyone has to write this down. It's super easy to remember. Atomic Habits. James Clear, go to his website, jamesclear.com. I'm using it in my summer class. My students absolutely love it. I did it last year too. And it's all about essentially how goal setting is a waste of time, but really not. What it's about is how you can have a goal to maybe write a manuscript, but it's just going to stress you out nonstop unless you have small habits that you need to do each day to get there. And so when you wake up in the morning, you need to think, what habit, what do I have to do today to reach my overall goal? Okay, so it might be, I need to write 1,000 words for a manuscript today. Don't worry about getting this manuscript done by July 1st. That might be your end goal, but that's just stressing you out because it's weighing on you thinking, oh my gosh, I have this big, huge manuscript that's due July 1st. How am I going to do that? No, you wake up, as soon as you wake up and you can write it down, it just doesn't work well for me. And you say, okay, at 9 o'clock today, 9 o'clock a.m., I'm going to write 1,000 words. Okay. So atomic habits, I can't stress that enough. It's so important. Composure, that's the stop, okay? How do you handle these negative emotions, these negative people? Are you utilizing our stop method? Reasoning, and this is really where I go back to that experience with my husband throwing clothes on the floor. Like my first response, if I walk into the bedroom and I see the clothes on the floor, again, fight or flight. But if you just stop and take a breath and reason with it, like, okay, my husband has 35,000 amazing qualities, but one really bad quality, which is the clothes on the floor. So after 17 years of marriage, I
Is
should
that
be able
really a
to
really
handle
bad-
it, right?
Is that really a really bad
a big
quality?
deal right now, right? I mean, there's mad, crazy things happening in the world, and I'm going to bring these negative emotions because of that. Or, I don't know, honestly, like, let's take a moment right now. I want you to think, and you can share in the chat or speak up if you want, of that negative thing that just irks you, but it's really not that big a thing now that you actually think about it. So again, I use the example of clothes on the floor. Does anyone want to share an example?
I think you should move the laundry basket.
So I did that. I got another laundry basket and put it right next to his dresser. Doesn't he start using the other laundry basket? I'm like, I give up. I think now he knows, because he's heard me say this before, so he knows he can get away with it if it's his worst quality. Anyone want to share something? No? Okay. So with that being said, think about it before you react. Is it really that big of a deal? Does it really matter that your course evaluation, they said that you talk too fast? Does that really make a difference in the large scheme of things? No. Health, I can't stress that enough, but I don't want to stress it only because I think most people know the importance of physical activity, eating well, and sleeping well. Okay, that we'll save for another day. Tenacity, persistence, bouncing back. I actually had a slide about bouncing back, but I deleted it. That's that north of neutral. When you are at 3 and you get that stressor that brings you to a 1, what do? Do you allow yourself to creep into the neutral or even the negative? Or do you have the strategies to bring yourself back up? And that's where this tenacity comes from. But you cannot do it without social support, right? How do you do any of this without collaboration, without colleagues, without that social connection? And I think that's a lot of the stressors that we've had with the pandemic, is that lack of connection. And even now, we have 2 people in the room, and I'm fine with everybody being online because this is the first time I've done face-to-face presentation, but it's different. It's different. You don't have, a perfect example is faculty assembly. Like, everybody always complained that they had to go to faculty assembly, but looking back, it was great to get there and you had that 5 or 10 minutes to just connect with each other, eat the cookies, right? Forget about those negative experiences that you had throughout the day. We need that social connection. And that's why I feel like, the fall, hopefully we'll be able to look at a little bit more normalcy. I won't go through this now, but again, I'll share the website or the PowerPoint. I do have an activity here that really, it's an opportunity for you to sit down and just think about situations in your life and how you might be looking at them in the wrong way. Okay. Okay, so I don't even know what time this ends. Is it 1:50 or 1:55? 1:50. I only have like a zillion more to go. That's okay. What I want to say is I'm going to just go to, and again, I'll share this. But this particular activity, this is actually something I do with my students. Can you guys see this online okay? I assume yes.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. I just didn't know if I was just sharing this presentation. Okay, so the PERMA model, this is really what I'm studying in this training that I'm doing, is the PERMA model basically is the model or the components that every individual must have in order to flourish and thrive in life. Okay, and a lot of this we've already talked about, positive emotion. So that's that negativity bias, rewiring the brain, the growth mindset. Just like you exercise to be able to be healthy, to walk up the stairs, you have to exercise your brain. You have to practice mindfulness. You have to practice that positive emotions. Relationships, we just talked about, you have to have relationships. I struggle, our students are struggling so much with this because we essentially gave them 2 years of an excuse to be on technology 24/7. And now we have to allow them to be able to engage. I see this, my daughter will be 14 next week. And it's like, I can't get her to just go outside and hang out with her friends. Her comments are, why do I have to go out and hang out with them when we just can text on the phone? Or if they are together, they're just on their phones anyways. Okay, accomplishments, we have to have that goal setting. Okay, and again, the end of this presentation has some activities with that. Engagement, you should be doing something every day that you are so much in flow with that you lost track of time. And I guarantee it was this presentation, right? You guys just lost track of the last 50 minutes and it just flew by like that. So you check that box for today, right? But you really, for me, it's watching movies with my family. We started that during COVID. I love Friday nights watching movies with our family together. Okay. So we had meaning, engagement, accomplishment, and relationships. And then they did add a vitality one, but I suggest that you take a look at this website. Has some great tools on there as well. But this is an activity that I do with my students. We're not going to do it now. But if you have 5 minutes to do this after the presentation, I would do it. Just answer these questions. What brings you emotion? List it. What brings you positive emotion? What makes you fully engaged? What relationships do you have, and meaning and accomplishments? So my students really love this activity. And then to summarize, again, I have a lot of activities here. I believe I have the Atomic Habits. Nope, I don't. But basically the Atomic Habits book, I highly, highly suggest, mainly because it really gets through those small habits that you should be doing every day. So to summarize, I know we're out of time, just kind of some real quick takeaways. Stop, right? We want to make sure that we always stop. Take a breath, observe the situation, and then respond. We want to create a plan every day with mini habits that you're going to do to reach your overarching goal. A couple other really, really great things is a gratitude journal. My husband does this. It takes 2 minutes, 2 minutes before bed. Going back to that negativity bias, how many times do you go to bed thinking of all the ridiculously stupid things that happened that day? But you kind of forgot that you had an amazing lunch with a colleague that you hadn't seen in 2 years, right? So before bed, I want you to spend 2 minutes writing down one good thing that happened to you today. This is so powerful with students. On the PowerPoint that I shared with you, I will have a whole list of other strategies. I apologize we didn't get through them all, but hopefully you guys were able to at least find the importance of the negativity bias and how changing your mindset walking into a situation can really make a difference. Questions? Comments, concerns? Kristen, do you have your hand up or you're just giving me a high five? No?
I'm good. Good job.
Yeah, go ahead. No. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And I will share the PowerPoint with everybody so that you can have it with all the links to all the different activities that you can do. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, real quick, what is the name of the group and training you're a part of? And how do we contact them?
It is amazing. It's the Flourishing Center.
Okay.
And it is, I'm doing the Certificate of Applied Positive Psychology. But it's essentially a certificate of human flourishing, or the scientific study of human flourishing. It's all evidence-based. I can't even believe the resources they've given me. I mean, the manual alone is 1,000 pages. And actually, one of our previous students works there. That's how I heard about it. It's not cheap, but it is, so far, it's been 4 classes and it's been absolutely amazing. So,
In times like this, you can't put a price on certain things we need.
I agree. Another great person to look into, Brene Brown. I don't know if you guys have heard of Brene Brown. She has some really amazing books on vulnerability and, you know, dealing with daily stressors and that type of stuff. So Brene Brown, and then a book I'm reading right now, which I actually wanted to do a book club, but no one wanted to do it. Sean Achor, Achor. He has Happiness Advantage and Big Potential, I read, and another one that are amazing books. But I know we're out of time. Thank you all for coming. If you need anything else, just drop me an email.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.